Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we have a very special guest, mashallah, Brother Imran, better known as Dawah Man, joining us from the UK. Jazakallah khair, akhi, for taking out the time to sit with us and have this conversation.
بارك الله فيك جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته to everyone.
All right, so before we begin, I just want to give a brief introduction as to what led to this conversation and one of the reasons I really wanted to do it. And I think when I reflect, it goes back to my meeting of our brother, our friend, Abu Taymiyyah, because alhamdulillah, I had the pleasure of meeting him in Medina when we were both students there. And what struck me after spending time with him personally was how different he was in person versus the preconceived idea that I had of him based on, to be honest, his association with you, his association with certain videos that he was promoting and certain things that I had seen online. So I thought a certain way about him, you know, but once I met him and I sat and ate with him and got to know him, I was like, man, I was so wrong about this brother, you know. And alhamdulillah, years later, I mean, he's a beautiful brother, you know, and I'm ashamed that I even, and it's kind of strange, like how I even reached that point of thinking those things that were so wrong about him. And all along the way of knowing him, he always spoke highly of you, of Brother Imran, Dawah Man, even though you might get a lot of criticism, but he always spoke highly of you, and that always meant something to me because of how I feel about him and his words. So, you know, that sort of had an effect on me. And I used to think, you know, I probably, the same thing that happened with me having a wrong perception of Abu Taymiyyah, I probably have an inaccurate perception of you based on the same things, the same videos and things like that. And recently, alhamdulillah, we got in contact and we spoke a little bit behind the scenes. And it was the same sort of situation. I was like, mashallah, this seems like a really good, sincere brother. And I think he gets a bad rap. So I was like, you know what, now that I have this new platform where I've been interviewing people, I was like, you know what I think would be good is to have you on, we have a discussion, but it has to be a real discussion. Like there are certain things that I want to ask you, I want to talk about. And you were very open to that. And in fact, it seemed like you wanted to have this conversation. There are certain things that you want to talk about as well. So that's a little bit about the background to what led to this. So is there anything that you'd like to share before I start basically asking some questions?
No, we can go straight into it, my bro. Alhamdulillah, I appreciate you, just giving me the opportunity. You know, jazakallah khair. I like that. You know, mashallah, tabarakallah. But yeah, I'm ready, bro.
All right, cool. Yeah, well, I have specific things I want to ask you about, but I kind of just want to put the ball in your court first, generally speaking. So is there anything about your da'wah over the years that you reflect on where you think that you might have made a mistake, or anything that you want to clarify that you think people have misinterpreted? Is there anything that sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, I don't generally speaking regret the things that I've said. I don't regret the battles that I got into. No, not one bit, alhamdulillah. But one thing that reflecting now, that I wish that I'd done was that some of the things and the videos that I made, I wish I just thought a bit more about the way I was gonna put certain things across before I actually put it across. It was just the issue of hastiness. You know, those battles, I was always gonna jump into them. You know, من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه. Anyone from amongst you sees the evil, that evil has to be rectified, it has to be removed with your hand if you don't have the ability with your tongue. So this was deen, this was wajib. I was always going to be able to, you know, I was going to do that. But just some things that I just think that, you know, had I just ran it through in my head and took the guidance of the Salaf al-Salih when it came to, you know, pondering over your speech and being conscious of what you say, like Ata ibn Abi Rabah would, you know, he would question himself 70 times before he says certain things. And I think that's been one of the primary improvements in just my personal kind of self, because just by my nature I'm a very I've been a very hasty person, and the hastiness is from shaitan, and sometimes I feel like people might have been um, able to receive what I was saying a bit better had I just thought about it a little bit more. I would have maybe just got into just in control of myself and just rearrange the way I phrase certain things. I might have just changed my tone, because I find a lot of the time, to be honest, even they say, I studied NLP a few years ago, and one of the things, neuro linguistic programming, which is basically just how the mind functions. And one of the parts of neuro linguistic programming, which I found very beneficial, was the element that refers to communication. So one of the things that I learned was that only 7% of what you actually say is down to your words. 57% is down to your body language, and the remaining 30% is down to your tone. So 7% is only down to the words. So even the words might be correct, it's just the way sometimes it comes across. And I feel like a lot of the time, some people just never, they're gonna be, they're not gonna take the haqq, or maybe they're not gonna take on a particular individual. But I believe a lot of the time I might shot myself in the foot based on tone and where I come across or whatever have you. That would be the primary thing.
So as somebody with such a large following, Allahumma barak, I mean, right now, I think you're at around 222,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel. And you're speaking about acting hastily. Are you taking certain measures before putting out videos? Like, do you have a team behind you? Do you pray istikhara? Because being in your position, having such a large following, you have a lot of power and a lot of responsibility comes with that, So are you taking measures to sort of not be hasty and make sure that you're moving the right way, basically?
Yeah, so we always had a team, alhamdulillah. There was always shura. Like there was no every like I said, every battle we jumped into, there was always a jama'ah behind. Like there was a whole, like every time one of these things happen, whether it be, we're going toe to toe with the Shia, or whether it be the Sufis, or whether it be the Ikhwanis, there was always like a board. You know what I'm saying? So we always had that. You know what it is? It was a personal thing for me. Like, me. I think some people want to hear me say, "Oh, I regret, refuting people." No, I don't regret none of that. That's not what my regret is. I got a message the other day from one brother who is basically, may Allah Azza wa Jal guide us and him. He's kind of with the whole like Ikhwani kind of camp, right? I don't want to label him as an Ikhwani, but he's associated with that kind of group of people. And when the whole issue with the whole recent video with Yasir Qadhi and whatnot that came out, he messaged me like, bro, I realized you haven't released a video on the whole issue. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, no, I haven't. And he's like, yeah, I just went onto your Instagram, and because we got a series right now that I have on issue of racism. So he's like, I see you're dealing with like more general kind of topics. So I retorted back straight away, and I said, "Nah, bro, we still dealing with aqeed and manhaj all day, every day, bro. That's what we're doing. Like even my racism series actually is a series where I'm subtly educating people on tawheed and aqeed and manhaj through that series, because that's the asl of the deen. And all problems ultimately they come back to a problem in a person's creed, really and truly. So, he was debating me like, no, I've changed. You know what I'm saying? Like as in I've grown. You know how they have this narrative of, oh, I was young when I was, calling to the manhaj of the Salaf, and I was young and I was naive and I lacked wisdom when I was doing these things. So after having a conversation with me, he realized, he was like, nah, bro, my bad. I thought you changed. Like you haven't. You're still the same guy. So people, when they're not gonna hear me say, "Oh, I was sorry. I'm sorry for refuting and I'm sorry for making those videos." No, all I'm saying is that it's just I would have just I would just, if I'm being critical of myself, I would have just thought a little bit longer behind making the video. If I took 1 week to make it, I would have said, you know what, let me add an extra week. If I thought about it, if I made sure I would like 2 or 3 different brothers, I would have maybe done it with another 5 6 different brothers. Because one thing that I found is that waiting you can't, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, you can't really be faulted for waiting. You know what I'm saying? Like when you wait, generally speaking, some things require, you know, quick action, but generally speaking, only khair can come from just stretching it out. And I've seen in my personal life just the effect and that I've been able to have with the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal in terms of results in certain things. Now that I think about it, I'm just able to explore it from a few more angles and just take into account a few more different things. So yeah, that's what it is really. But as for what it was, you know, it is what it is.
Well, is there any specific videos you have in mind? Because I have one in mind, but I wanted to let you sort of be more specific about what you're talking about. So
what it was is there is actually one specific video that I have in mind, and it's probably not one that you're thinking of, that most people are even thinking of. But there was one particular situation where there was one brother who was accusing me of something. Okay, he was accusing me of something, of kind of me being a certain type of way with him, and basically saying that, look, me and him have a particular kind of relationship, and based on that relationship, look at the way this guy is disrespecting me. So I was like, nah, that's not, I don't have that relationship with you. So to kind of position it like that to make me seem a certain kind of way, I know I'm probably sounding so cryptic because most people might not have even seen this video. I just put out a little clip on Instagram saying, I don't have, like, it was such a red herring. It was not, it was so like such a silly thing. It was not central to the discussion at all. I should have just ignored it. But I put up a video of you know, me on Instagram saying, look, me and you didn't have that kind of relationship. That's not correct. That's not accurate. So don't bring it down there. Let's kind of stick to the point. And then what he had done is that he kind of put screenshots and audio recordings of me speaking to him in a very respectful way to kind of reinforce we had said relationship, and look at me, I'm basically violating and kind of being a certain kind of way. And then I was like, if only I thought about it, I would just realize that wasn't even worth going to war with someone over. You know, like, okay, he's claiming a particular relationship with me. Okay, like,
I mean, this seems like a very personal type of thing, you know, between two individuals, right?
Yeah. It was so sad, and that's why I regret it, is because it's like, if I just thought about it, and that's the you know, and that's another element, is that, you know, when you do da'wah, you don't want to bring personal issues to the table, but you know, when you don't think, that's when that element of the personal can kind of come into it. But when you think things through, you're like, well, that's not even da'wah, bro. That's so sad. You know what I'm saying? So so that really,
and you cool down as well.
So that was the moment that I realized, because one brother came to me and said, bro, like, because the thing is, they were using this personal element to kind of discredit the da'wah. That's where it all came in. So one of my close friends advised me, said, bro, if you just thought about it, like, you wouldn't have given them ammunition against you, and you know, it wasn't worth, like, it took away from the whole.
It sounds like something that got blown out of proportion. I mean, I honestly, I'm not really familiar, I don't think, with what exactly you're talking about, but it sounds like when you get emotions involved and personal relationships involved, and you got these public videos you're putting out, things can just get blown out of proportion, and before you know it, it's not even about dawah anymore, you know, it's about personal issues. But Akhi, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 30 years old. 30.
You're 30, okay, mashallah.
30, yeah.
Mashallah, may Allah preserve you, okay.
All
right, man, so I wanted to get into a specific video, okay?
Sure.
Because this really set the tone for the way that I view you, like I was saying before, and as well as Abu Taymiyyah and some of the other people that you had around you in your camp. And it was the video about Yasir Qadhi, where you, I guess it was the first time you had done a refutation video of him. It was called Behind the Scenes of the Dawah Scenes.
That was the second one. The first one was 5
That was the second one?
5 reasons why you shouldn't listen to Yasir Qadhi.
Okay.
That was the first one, yeah.
All right. Well, just from my perspective, you know, I'm just a regular viewer. You know, I was subscribed by that point because I remember when I got the notification on the subscriptions that you had posted a new video, and I remember watching it. I remember, you know, the whole situation, and it really, I mean, it was very impactful when you put this video out. You know, I mean, it had it affected a lot of people in the communities, both I guess in UK and in the US, and so that's sort of what I wanted to talk about. And even today, subhanAllah, just recently there was a video that referenced your video that sort of opened up, you know, a new can of worms, you could say. So I want to talk about that video.
Yeah, go for it.
So I guess, well, how should we even go about it? Is there anything? So what are your feelings about that video? I guess I want to, before I sort of give you my take on it, I'd like to hear your side, and then we can discuss it, inshallah.
Wallah, that video, I'm truly grateful. Allah Azza wa Jal, He favored me with the tawfiq of being able to put that out, because I believe that video and all goodness and all khair and everything goes back to Allah Azza wa Jal. But I believe that video was a defining factor in being able to kind of show, you see, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned there were going to be three groups. Hadith Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said that there will always remain a group that is going to be apparent on the truth. And then he mentioned two other groups. The group that's apparent on the truth is Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. The other two groups, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يضرهم من خذلهم ومن خالفهم أو كما قال. He said, and it will not harm them, the ones who are deceitful and the ones who oppose them. Now, those who oppose the Ahlul Sunnah, like clear cut, the Shia, the Asha'ira, the Maturidiyya, the Jahmiyyah, the Khawarij, like these are clear, like they are clearly directly in opposition to Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But then who is the deceitful group? Man khadalahum. You see, a person, for him to deceive you, that means they have to position themselves in a particular way that is not actually what they really are. So who is this deceitful group? And I mean, we know who it is. It's the Ikhwan Muslimin. It's those who have that mentality, that ideology. And the thing is, it's very hard to notice them because they have beards like me and you, and they have trousers above their ankles like me and you, and they say Quran and Sunnah like me and you, and then they also quote the Salaf of Salih like me and you, and then they even go and sit with the scholars like me, and they go to Medina and they graduate from Medina. You know what I'm saying? Like the brothers in the Sunnah, they do. So, but the thing is, they have a different in ideology. They have this mentality of, where Salafi in Aqidah, which is the theoretical side of creed, but we're Ikhwani in Manhaj, which is the Manhaj is the practical side of the creed. So, the theoretical side is Aqidah, just, Allah's names and attributes, affirming it. It's just what you have to have affirmation of and knowledge of in your heart. Like in Manhaj is the practical manifestation. So they say, we believe theoretically the way you guys believe, but we're going to act out in a particular kind of way. We're going to do things that are directly in opposition to the creed of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, practically speaking. But in theory, we'll agree with you. So I don't really want to go into it too much right now, because that video is, I think enough to kind of give a person an introduction to that kind of a group if people, are not familiar. And I have a video series coming out later on this week called The Deceitful Sect as well, that people can refer back to, inshallah ta'ala, if they want more information on it. But the reality of the matter is that this group is like, the people, it didn't exist as far as the people were concerned. This group did not exist. It was all Salafi. Yasir Qadhi is a Sunni. Abu Isa Ni'matullah is a Sunni. Dawah Man is a Sunni. Sheikh Abdurrahman Hassan is a Sunni. Like everyone's just Sunni. We're all Sunni out here. But then the point of that video was to show people, no, there's a big difference. Those people, they are they've already innovated to the point where they fell off the path of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or they're like, it's feared for them. You know what I'm saying? So that video, even though I know a lot of people were not necessarily convinced, even though a lot were convinced, but that wasn't my objective. My objective was never to convince people. That year, I issued out a lot of refutations, a lot. And we actually, amongst our circle, we call it Amul Rad, the year of refutations, because we just issued out loads. The reason we did it was not necessarily to convince the people, was to show people that there is a dividing line between us and them. As in, there is a sect that exists, and there's a sect here that exists. Only one of them is going to be the one that makes it to paradise, right? 73, 72, when I would say, only one makes it to paradise. My point was just that a conversation and a discussion would open up so that the people would know that there is such a discussion that needs to take place. And when you've divided the line, I mean, people are not going to stand in the middle, right? They're not going to stand, they're going to take one position or the other. They might hop back and forth. They might not know where they really stand, but there's one place that they have to stand. So my point was, I wanted to draw the line. And then now I've got the rest of my life to convince you, with the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal, that this is the line, this is the side you need to be on. And that's what we've been doing. So a lot of people, it's sad because I actually only get this criticism from people on the da'wah. They think that video was like the biggest mistake I made, and it was probably the end and the destruction of my reputation. But you see me, I'm on the ground and I see things for what it really is. And that video, with Allah Azza wa Jalla's permission, was actually one of the best things Allah Azza wa Jalla guided me to do in my entire life, because we made that line clear. A lot of people did realize, and people got to know that there is a Salafiyya out there. That's different to the Salafiyya of, the Ghulat. I don't really want to go and talk about them too tough right now, but you know who I'm talking about. There's that group that call themselves Salafi, but they do whatever it is that they do. So people understood that there is a difference between them and us, and there is a balanced path. And since then, I'm saying, like, people tell me, "Oh, bro, you destroyed your reputation. This place won't invite you. That place won't invite you." But the reality of the matter is that our da'wah has only progressed. Like in the UK, and we don't measure things based on numbers. That's what the Ikhwanis do, because you see, we're going to teach people if only 1 or 2 people turn up. But there ain't no one who's got events that they're packing out larger than our events. Like, period. This is not even something where, like, I have to do tatabbu' al-istiqra'. In the UK, like, there is no organization that is consistently putting out the event. And we do an event called Madting in a Masjid weekly. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, we got these kids coming, we got these youngsters, brothers, sisters coming, and they're all learning Salafiyya. They are all learning Salafiyya. They're all learning Tawheed. They are people that actually their Aqeedah is becoming purified. And the reason I mention numbers is not because it's something to us. Wallahi, it's not. The Prophet said, رَأَيْتُ النَّبِيَّ وَلَيْسَ مَعَهُ أَحَدٌ. I saw a messenger and there was no one with him. I saw a Prophet, he had no followers with him. So we don't say that a person is successful based on how many people he gets to come in the masjid or not. But this is for those guys who do measure success based upon that, because they've been watering down the religion so much to be able to get the numbers in that, that's their yardstick for success. So for them, just to let them know, the da'wah didn't get affected. It only grew, it only multiplied, and it still is. It still is online and on the ground, and people are really learning the deen. In fact, I've met some of these speakers before. These speakers, some who I address in that video, some who maybe I didn't address them in that video, but I've addressed them in videos before. And I met their kids, and their kids walked up to me. And this guy, by the way, is like a leader in his Ikhwani da'wah. And their kids roll up to me and say, "Imran, keep doing your videos while I'm really benefiting." And I'm thinking, bro, like, your dad is right there. But like, Salafi is in your house. I had certain brothers who are on this stuff, but their wives are coming to our classes. Like I'm saying, there's certain brothers who are like not on the Salafi da'wah, but their wives, their children are coming, and then eventually they come too. You know what I'm saying? So like, Salafi got into people's houses. It got into people's houses, it got into their kids, alhamdulillah, and it's just growing. And since then, like, I think a lot of people got to realize it's not the same. It's not the same. Like there is 2 different groups. And like I said, I don't have to convince you. My job isn't to convince you. My job is to convey. The wajib upon me is to convey. Allah is upon him to guide. And of course I do want them to come to guidance. I want them to be convinced. But now I've got the rest of my life to do that. And alhamdulillah, I believe that as long as we stay sincere and we stay on the sunnah, Allah is going to show us a lot of khair.
Jazakallah khair for sharing your side. Now I want to share my perspective.
Go for it.
I have heard a lot of great things about what you're mentioning, about your da'wah and about real serious students of knowledge coming out to your events and classes and all that you're doing. So may Allah bless you and bless them. But as for this particular video we're talking about, I mean, there's so much that you had mentioned to respond to, but one thing is that it's not that it was mutually exclusive, regarding putting this video out and that happening versus not putting that out and it not happening, right? So that's one thing to consider. Another thing to consider is, of course, the ends don't always justify the means as well, right? So, and also only Allah knows. I mean, it's the qadr of Allah, so we don't need to go back and speculate on what if this or what if that. But without putting out that video, I mean, Allah's perfectly capable of putting you in a position of reaching more people and doing better, I mean, if you reach this with that so-called video as a dark cloud for some people, what if that, Allah could put barakah in your da'wah where you have no dark cloud over you, you know what I'm saying? So that's the one thing I wanted to respond to in terms of, mashallah, how you have progressed and you do seem to have all these great things going on, mashallah. But the other thing is the specifics about this video. And this was the main reason why I had an issue with it, and I still believe.
Is it possible to comment on that point that you just made just now? If that's okay.
Sure.
So
go ahead.
you said that it's not necessarily connected, that video and what we've seen now, and I believe that it is, because that video.
No. I don't mean not connected. I mean not mutually exclusive. It's not like, oh, if you hadn't have put that out, you wouldn't have been able to do what you're doing now. That's what I mean. I'm sure there's a connection.
Yeah. So Allah Azza wa Jal, His qadr, ultimately how it manifested was that I did put that video out. So then the qadr of Allah is always khair. Because if it was better to have not put it out, then Allah Azza wa Jal would have his qadr wouldn't have manifested in that way.
Well, you can't say that everything that you do because of the qadr of Allah.
I'm not trying to sound like the Qadariyah there, by the way, who believe that they're not in control of their actions or anything like that. That was just a little joke.
Well, all right. Well, I want to move on to more specifics about this video.
No problem.
Because for me, the fact that it was a private email, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that is like, I don't understand how that can be justified.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And I think that was what was very, very negative about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Is that there's you are. I mean, you have a reputation. I mean, a reputation for really, I guess, dawah towards the youth. Allahumma barak, you look younger than you even are. So you come out, you have this private email, you look young, energetic. You is the year of reputations. And it's like, so all of that coming together, and then you have on top of all that, like I said, you have this private email that you're coming out with, and it's like, where did he get this email? Is this email even real? Like how did this happen? And I feel like that was something that, to me, I don't feel like that was right. Okay, so how did how do you justify putting out a private email like that?
I really appreciate that question. So Imam Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala in his Manduma in Qawaid al-Fiqhiyya, he mentions two very powerful qawaid. So وإن تزاحم عدد المصالح يقدم الأعلى من المصالح وإن تزاحم عدد المفاسد يرتكب الأدنى من المفاسد. He mentioned that if there's a conflict between two goods, then you would take the greater of the two goods. And if there's a conflict between two evils, you'd pick the lesser of the two evils. So we were presented with a situation in which there was no good. There was only two evils. One evil was that we were going to put out private emails, which is a shar. It's bad. It's not something good to put out something private into the public. That is a shar. I'll be the first to tell you that. There's a real life discussion we had amongst our team, amongst our jama'ah, with even our elders, when we had this conversation. So the first shar that we had was that we're going to put out a conversation that's taking place in private. But we also had another shar, which was that if we don't address this issue right now, this man is going to bring it out. You see, to understand the context, you really have to understand who Yasir Qadhi is. Yasir Qadhi, as just generally, which is something that which is a characteristic of Ikhwan al-Muslimin, is that they don't come out with what their beliefs are straight away. As Mufaddal ibn Mahlhan rahimahullah ta'ala said, when you go to a person of innovation, he will not tell you what his bid'ah is immediately. He'll tell you Quran, Sunnah until he knows he's got you, and then he'll throw his shubha into your heart. And when it enters your heart, when will it come out? So we've seen that Yasir Qadhi, he's a person who has had beliefs, some for over a decade, and he's hidden them from the masses. And there are certain people I know, the people know, whose names I won't mention just now, right now, because I don't know if they want to be brought in this perspective, but I've seen them talk about it publicly, so I don't really think they'd have an issue, but just out of respect for them, I won't mention it right now. But they sat with Yasir Qadhi almost a decade ago, and they were like, they had already told us these beliefs Yasir Qadhi had. Like some of the beliefs Yasir Qadhi had are crazy. Some of the beliefs I still know, and I haven't come out with it just yet. You know what I'm saying? I haven't come out with what some of the filth and corruption he believes. But why is it that he hasn't come out with it just yet? Because he knows the people would, exactly as Mufaddal Mahal had said, if he tells you his bid'ah straight away, you're going to run from him, right? So they build you up to it. they build you up to it. So, for example, you do a lovely Sierra course. Allah knows if it's lovely, but you do a Sierra course. You'll captivate the people through storytelling. But then what you do is you'll throw these subtle kind of, these principles that you're going to build on later. You win the people's hearts, and then, what do you do after that? You think we're not done? Wallahi, we're on to you, my bro. What do? You say, oh, we're going to talk about the signs of the day of judgment. And then you start showing us, this issue of how you take the aql to an extent over the naql, where, the issue of Ya'juj and Ma'juj and zombies. Like, you see the way he builds you. He doesn't, Yasir Qadhi don't come out in a video and say, let me just tell you about zombies. Like, the Ya'juj and Ma'juj ain't the way you think it is, implying that it's zombies or whatever have you. He'll build you and then he'll drop it. And when he drops it, it's like, I'll be honest with you, when you've been on him on that whole journey, it's very hard to reject him now, because he's built you up through it. He's taken you through stages and then he's dropped it onto you. So we said, look, generally speaking, Ya'juj and Ma'juj is a problem. It's a problem. All these other beliefs, he has a problem. But these emails showed that he did not believe that the Quran is preserved word by word. This is mad. This is insane. So if that shubha comes out, because if you refer back to the emails, I think a lot of people actually forgot what was actually in those emails. You know, this recent discussion, like, if people go back to that video, they'll see what he actually believes. You know what I'm saying? He believes, to summarize his kalam, the Quran, it's preserved meaning, but not word by word. But here's a problem. If you open that door on people and you say the words are not preserved, but the meaning is hinged onto the words. But if the words are not preserved, that means the meaning can be stretched. And if the meaning can be stretched, then there's a whole plethora of interpretation that you can bring in. And then, what is the kalam of Allah what you're really intending? And then so much problem and fasad is going to come from there. People's iman is going to decrease, because he's going to somehow convince them through. He's had these shubuhat affected to him from Orientalists, where he may not have the thiqah with regards to the preservation of the Quran. Like in Ustad Abdul Rahman, he showed, and he's releasing a series, inshallah ta'ala, in the next few days, where he's going to be going through this in detail, going through all of the shubuhat of the Orientalists, showing that the Quran has been preserved word by word. And also the meanings has also been preserved. Alhamdulillah. But I'm saying, if he was to release that and we was to give him time to build the people up and put that out there, it would have been a lot worse. It would have been a lot worse. So we said, look, to preempt his move, instead of being reactionary, just to let the people know, because you see, it's against the fitrah to say the Quran's not been preserved. It's almost heresy. It is heresy. It's heresy. It's heretical to say that the Quran has not been preserved word for word, letter by letter. But if you give him time and you let him build the people up to it, we said that's going to be more of a shar. So then we said, okay, we've got these two evils now. Exposing a man's private discussion, that's an evil. But a greater evil, we said, is to allow him to actually have the time to set the foundations that we've seen him do over the years. We know he does this, okay? And then what's he going to do? Then he's going to come with his shubha. And at that time, the people aren't expecting it. They're literally just going to walk right into it. And then they're going to doubt the Quran. So we said, it's either protect the Quran or protect his privacy. I was going to choose the Quran over his privacy. So that's what it was. It was a maslaha rajiha. It was maslaha rajiha. Or it was aqallul mafsadatayn. It was the lesser of the two evils. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Why is it that somebody else didn't come out? Like, why didn't one of your elders, for example, if this is really a matter of, you being faced with the situation, two evils, you choosing the lesser of two evils? Because I feel like, to be honest, I'm just gonna be honest with how I perceived the whole thing. I felt like you got people behind you who are like, put him out there, let him do it, let him say this, and then they'll just sit back and watch. Like, if they really feel that strongly that what they're doing is right and important, why wouldn't one of the older people who are more knowledgeable come out and do a proper refutation, if that's the case?
So there's a number of ways I could answer this. Number one, let's not be like, akhi, look, you're on the da'wah, I'm on the da'wah. We're doing similar things out here, so we know how it goes. Let's be real now. Let's call a spade a spade. How many brothers, elder brothers are there, knowledgeable brothers that are out there that already know these things, and they keep their mouth closed? Okay, some of them I understand why, but some of them I really just don't get. Like, they just like it's like some people are just concerned with maybe their own communities or whatever reason. Allah knows what their objective is, but this stuff is not hidden knowledge in our circles? Yes or no? So then my question is, why not? Now, if they're going to keep quiet and they're not going to take they don't want to take the burden, I'm happy to take the burden. I'm happy to take the burden. I mean, this. I don't care about my reputation. I don't care about my reputation. I'll be real with you. When I say, obviously, I care to the extent where there's some izzat to nafs and you don't want to, place yourself in a, in mawatin or tuhum, you don't want to place yourself in suspected situations. Yeah, to that extent. But like, I don't care if you hate me. I care if Allah loves me. That's what I care. I want the Prophet ﷺ to see me on the day of judgment and recognize me for being one who defended his sunnah. So that's where my concern is. So I'm not accusing other brothers of caring of their reputation. I'm just saying that if whatever their issue might be, I'm saying it wasn't my issue. So there were things that held them back. It didn't hold me back. And I don't believe this concept of you shouldn't have done it, someone else should have done it. Because really, really and truly, if someone else done it, we would have found a way to criticize him. We would have said, you shouldn't have done it. You know why? Sheikh, the kids don't relate to you. You got too much of a thick accent. You should have got Imran to do it. That's what they would have said. And I've seen these things take place. And not just that, to kind of, mention another point, is that it's not something rare that Ustad Abdurrahman was my teacher. You know what I'm saying? He was my teacher and he was the one that I was closest to and he was the one that I was benefiting the deen from. And he's one who's been out there refuting the Ikhwani. So no one can tell me, he was pushing you forward. And I've heard some people say, and he sat back. No, because he'd been going to war with them anyway. Go look at his YouTube channel.
There's a difference between refuting groups and then exposing a private email.
Individuals. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like,
this is all, Akhi, you and I both have put out videos about Yasir Qadhi, right? The difference is I waited until he was sitting there on a podcast publicly proclaiming these thoughts to the world, whereas this video we're discussing was a private email, So to me, that changes the whole situation,
So let me ask you a question. What's more important, his privacy or the Quran?
I mean, that's an obvious
that's what
question.
It comes down to.
That's a false premise, okay?
Habibi, it's not. That's what it came down to. But let me
that's you assuming that your video helped preserve the Quran. Like there's other ways to approach this, right?
No. I'm not saying it preserves the Quran. I'm saying
that way that you're bringing it up implies
history has to be understood in context. History has to be understood in context. I'm saying, put yourself in my position. I'm sitting here, and we've got a guy that's gonna. Whether my video helped to preserve the Quran is irrelevant. I'm not even claiming that it did. I never said that. I said my video open up a discussion on there being a group called Salafiyya and a group called Ikhwan al-Muslimin. That's what I said my video. I believe that Allah Azza wa Jalla guided me to be able to do. I never said it helped preserve the Quran or anything like that. My point was that imagine we're in a situation where this guy, we can see that he's putting together a research through these emails that he wants to release to put a big question mark on the Quran. So now I have received this information. It's like, let me ask you a question. Let me flip it on you. It comes to you, there is a pedophile who's abusing little children in his locality. And he's doing it privately. Are you gonna let the authorities know?
Of course, Akhi. I don't agree with these examples you're using, man.
But I'm saying that's because of this the honor and the safety and the sanctity and the right of the children, right? Like, is the right of Allah not greater?
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but there are certain assumptions being made. There are certain assumptions that this video you put out, this approach that you took, had the positive effect that you intended, that the pros outweighed the cons regarding it, right? That's what you're sort of assuming with these questions you're asking, but there are other ways to look at it as well, right?
We can differ on the pros and the cons. You don't have to agree with me that it had a good. I'm saying I
understand your perspective, and I appreciate you sharing it with me, right?
My point is, you asked me a question. Do I think it was good? I'm telling you, yeah. Like I had a decision. I said, look, in our day-to-day, this is what I noticed, that people, when it comes to this is the whole issue of refutation, actually, because if I expose his private email in this particular situation, I'm saying then you backbited him in your videos, right? When you refuted him. That's backbiting. Refutation is backbiting. But like in what? It's permissible to backbite. By the way, I love you. You know, I really
Okay, I
enjoy
feel
this.
there's
I'm really no, I'm loving it.
there's
I'm
too
cool
much
right now.
conflation. I feel like these are
What's
very specific matters. Okay, and there's too much
it's not
conflation in terms of
it's not
examples and
there's a principle. It's very because you know why I'm giving example. وبالمثال يتضح المقال. With an example, the matter becomes clear. Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala has a kitab. I really want you guys to pay attention to this point here. This is a very powerful point. Imam Nawawi has a kitab called Riyadh Salihin, which you all know. In Riyadh Salihin is a chapter called Babu Ma Yubahu min al-Ghiba. The chapter in which it's at times where it's permissible to backbite. From the times he mentions permissible to backbite is a situation, for example, when someone wants to marry someone and you know that this person has got some bad evil tendencies, you can warn the person, hey, you see the person you're about to marry? Just let you know. This guy's a crackhead. This guy's a drug dealer. This guy is his star. I'm just letting you know, be careful. You're allowed to backbite in that situation. Another time he mentions you're allowed to backbite is when a person is taking their religion from a person who is what? Going to misguide them. Why? Because in this particular situation, I've got two evils. Either I'm going to backbite this man who the sister might marry and this man will beat her, or I'm going to let her get beaten and let her get married and potentially get beaten. Also, I'm going to either backbite this man who is going to deviate this man into a misguided, ideology, or I'm going to let him get misguided into a deviated ideology. They're both bad, but one is a lesser evil. So in that situation, I'll take it. And Imam Ibn Qayyim made a very powerful point, by the way, when he was also addressing this issue. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he mentioned Miftah Dar al-Sa'ada. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on the book. I'll look it up after, inshallah. Maybe we can add it as a reference at the end. But he mentioned a very powerful point. You know what he said? He said that on the hadith, when Fatima bint Qais radiallahu anha came to the Prophet and she asked about Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan and Abu Jahm, whether she should marry either one of the two because they asked for a hand in marriage. And the Prophet said, don't marry Muawiyah because of his financial situation, and don't marry Abu Jahm because he's a man. He excessively beats the women. In another narration, he has a stick on his shoulder. Ibn al-Qayyim said something powerful. He said, look at the fact that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he warned her against marrying this man because he might beat her, he might harm her dunya. Is it not greater that we warn the people against someone who will harm someone's deen and destroy their akhirah? So the Prophet ﷺ exposed, I don't want to use the term exposed to talk about Prophet because that word just doesn't really sound nice. But the Prophet ﷺ brought to her attention something from the private affairs of Abu Jahm, or something that was about Abu Jahm, which was she didn't know. But he brought that information out for a greater maslahah. So I brought out something from Yasir Qadhi for a greater maslahah. My maslahah was the Quran. But people are more concerned about his maslahah, right, which is him.
Well, okay. You made your position very clear. You made your perspective very clear. I appreciate you putting it out there. I think it's important for people to know where you're coming from, because people might not understand that. But I do want to express another perspective, Akhi.
Please do.
We don't even have to debate it, but just you put your reasoning behind it. Now, obviously, I'm in America, right? You're in the UK. You're amongst the people. You're seeing a certain reaction online. There's people from all over the world. So this is something that is international, right? That happened. So you're seeing it from your perspective, and this is how, if I reflect on it from my perspective. So number one, I was like I said, it was a dark cloud over your head from my perspective, and I'm like, I thought it was wrong to expose this private email. I'm like, where did he get it from? Who's behind this? Why are people pushing him out there?
Do you know who sent it?
I know.
You found out.
It's mad.
Right? You know.
Yeah.
Mad,
right?
But
also, okay. I mean, now a lot has come to light in the past couple of days, because Yasir Qadhi finally confirmed it. Up until he literally confirmed it himself, I was like, I didn't even believe it necessarily real, right? I didn't necessarily consider it real. I'm like, this is a private email. How did all this come about? I thought I thought that it caused more harm than good, personally. And I thought that one way to look at it as well is, we live in a time where refutations in general are seen as something that a certain type does, right? And it has led to an extreme where people are so wary of refuting because they don't want to be boxed in with this particular group. And I think that there's an argument to be made that this video you put out, the way that it was done, it's made it may have put a damper over refutations in general, which made it much more difficult once he did actually start coming out with these thoughts. That is just, people are just like, khalas, they just put you in that box, you know? So there's that aspect to it as well. And Akhi, there's so much that you said, Akhi, that like I'm trying to remember all the points I wanted to respond to. But yeah, Akhi, so for example, he did it. So for example, let's take the email list, for example, right? All these older people behind the scenes deciding not to come out. Did you ever hear any of their arguments as to why? Because it seems like you have your own team behind the scenes, which is somewhat anonymous. People can speculate, but it seems like
our team's out there. Our team's it's ma'roof. My team is
I mean, this particular council where you guys decided to put out this particular video.
Yeah, I mean, like it's literally the Child My Bag group that we consulted with Ustad Abdul Rahman. We consult like. I mean, I can issue out.
Who's the senior most student of knowledge or scholar that was like, go ahead, Imran?
So just out of respect for those particular individuals, I just think it's like I think, and I've been consistent in this video so far, I haven't necessarily mentioned names of people without, just consulting with them first. I don't have a problem mentioning it. It's not something I'm trying to hide. Like, people who've been following me, they know our Jama'ah. I think most people, without me even having to say it, will be able to answer that question. But I think it just out of respect for them, it will be better for me to just not mention who they are just in this context, because
that's the thing that adds to the whole weirdness of it. It's like, why do they push you forward? If this is the right thing to do,
they didn't push me forward. They didn't push me forward. I'm saying I went forward, and I said, "Is this a good idea?"
So this was an ijtihad you reached then.
It was a suggestion I came with, and then after discussing it, we came to the conclusion this was good. But I'm saying, can I address something?
I think that's an important point to address. Okay, that's an important point to who reached this ijtihad. Who was qualified to say, we're going to take, because this is a major thing. I think taking a private email and then saying that harm outweighs the good.
No, so let's come to this point in a second. I have no problem addressing this issue, inshallah ta'ala. If you give me a second, let me just call him up and just say, hey, do you mind? I'm on Brother Sad's podcast. Do you mind? I'm happy to do it. I'm an open book. I'm not the guy who hides anything. But I just want to address one thing. There's something that I thought many times to address, but I really couldn't ever be bothered to do so. Yeah. But I think I know where you might be coming from. By the way, I'm really loving this, but I'm really having a good time. I don't feel offended, or I don't feel like cornered in any way. Like, I'm really so happy you're doing this. I'm really like,
it's nice to hear your perspective, because these have been questions in my head for years.
Exactly. But there's something that I want to mention. I feel like I know where this issue is coming from. Maybe I'm wrong. Might not be where the issue is coming for you in terms of the perspective that you received, but I know there's a lot of people it comes from. There is a completely different perspective amongst the students of Medina University and the students in Saudi Arabia, whether it be in Qasim or Riyadh or wherever they might be. Those were the students that are there now, or have recently graduated, or in the last 5 or 6 or whatever years. They have a completely different perspective to our da'wah than the reality, than what most people have as a perspective in regards to our da'wah. Like, when I go to Umrah all the time, and I'm always hearing this drama about this student said this about you, and that student said this about you, and this student believes this, and it's just like, it's forgive me, it's very feminine. It's like it's very feminine kind of behavior, because they don't come and address it with me personally. I mean, I'm in Medina, my bro. I'm in the city of the Prophet ﷺ. You know where I'm at. You talk, you drive past, you say X, Y, Z, but you don't come talking. If you was to speak to me, I'm a very cool guy. I'd have a conversation with you, and you find that, it might be opposite to what you perceived. But I noticed that this is only amongst the students. Now, I don't know where this issue came to them from. Maybe it's hasad, Allah knows best. Maybe it's assumptions. Maybe actually, I think I do know where it comes from. I don't think I'm not going to put it down to hasad. I'm not going to do that. But what I think it comes down to is having a perspective of what the da'wah should be like when you're not involved. But as if you come to the du'at who are involved in the da'wah, who are involved, when I say involved, there's a difference between being involved from a distance, running an Instagram account or writing articles. That's not the da'wah I'm talking about I'm talking about being involved, like on the ground, with the people, with the human beings. I'm saying, I notice these students up in Medina, I'm not putting them down, by the way. It's not all of them, because some of my closest friends are students in Medina, like Ustad Abu Taymiyyah and the likes, and whatever have you. But I'm saying a lot of these students, they talk about what the da'wah should be like. But my bro, you don't do da'wah. You're not here. You're not dealing with the kids stabbing each other in the streets. You're not dealing with the takfiris that are giving shubuhat, and the kids are running away to. We lost youngers that blew themselves up. We know youngers that got shot up by the US, by the UK military and blown up because they went and joined ISIS. Like when someone says, why you refuting ISIS, someone else not, because my kids are joining ISIS. When I say my kids, I mean the ones that we're giving dawah to. When you think, why are you talking about Mawlid? Because our kids are starting to worship graves.
Akhi, I don't want to cut you off, but I gotta, I forget, Akhi, because it's been a long day, and
no problem.
The thing is, Akhi, is that I feel like there's a lot of conflation going on. Akhi, I'm trying to say you do a lot of good work, and these points that you're bringing up are important points. However, this whole Yasir Qadhi email thing, this is a whole separate thing, which really sets the tone for a lot of people's perceptions of you. You know what I'm saying? That whole issue has been interfering with all this other da'wah, and I'm sure that I know that you're doing a lot of good already, Allahu Mubarak, but there's a difference between those people who live in your neighborhood and watch your videos there versus the rest of the internet. Akhi. You got like almost 250,000 subscribers, right? They're not all in your neighborhood.
Look, Habibi, this is my point. Is that the only, like, not the only, but apart from the Ikhwanis who the video was a refutation of, the second biggest opponents of that video, or opposers of that video, were the Salafi students of knowledge in Saudi Arabia.
Why?
That's what I'm saying. So why did it come to them? I believe it came to them because they looked at it from a perspective of, and that's not all the students of knowledge, by the way. That's not all I'm talking about the students of knowledge who are actually involved in da'wah, wherever in the world they may be. Those who are actually actively involved, more often than not, they gave me the thumbs up. Barakallahu feek, my bro. You actually done something that we found to be quite beneficial. The only ones who had that perspective were the ones who are not involved in da'wah. Like, if you're talking about the internet, just go to the video and look at the comments. I don't like to set that as a yardstick for whether something was successful or not, because the people don't really know what's good for them. But I'm saying, if you're using that as a yardstick right now, as in the people's perceptions, just go to the comments of the video.
Well, I sort of think, like, in a way, Akhi, sometimes it's like you're preaching to the choir, so to speak. The thing is, Akhi, is I'll forget. Last time I couldn't remember what I wanted to say because, mashallah, Akhi, you put a lot of stuff out there, man. So I gotta jump in there, man. Sometimes, Akhi, you might be preaching to the choir. You might already be talking to people who already understand the Salafi da'wah and understand. You said that you had already previously put out a Yasir Qadhi video refuting him, so it's like they already understand that. But now it's almost like you are tainting the Salafi da'wah in a way, what people perceive to be the Salafi da'wah, because, man, you're this, as people see it, young guy. You got all this energy. You got this private email you're putting out there. Like, this, it can be a very bad look for the Salafi da'wah, not just yourself.
So let me ask you a question. Okay, so let me ask you a question. What's your yardstick for measuring whether the Salafi da'wah has been tainted or not?
I mean,
that's respectfully speaking.
My point is that this is bigger than just you as an individual.
No problem. I know it's bigger than me, but I'm saying let's be daqiq now. So how do we measure if someone is tainting the Salafi da'wah or not, and then do tatbiq of my situation to that?
If somebody, for example, I'll throw this out there. Let's say you obviously associate yourself with the Salafi da'wah. You would claim to follow the Salafi da'wah and propagate it, and so would your group. So your actions, in a way, and you having such a huge following, you're representing that in a major way, correct?
You're right. Okay, so what's the issue?
All I'm saying is that
so if there are people
who already are following the Salafi da'wah, right? They're already on board with you. But when you come out with a video like that, with a private email, all the people that you want to call to the Salafi Dawah, they're like, oh, look at these Salafis pulling out private emails.
No,
What is
Habibi,
this?
that's wrong. Habibi, that's inaccurate because the Salafi Da'wah only started to, again, like I said, I'm not talking about the US. I don't know about the US. I could talk about my country. I could talk about my city. I'm saying the Salafi Da'wah really only blew up to a mainstream level since that video. I'm not saying it was down to that video. No.
Okay, so we have to make a distinction here. There's a huge difference between your neighborhood and your locality versus like us in the States and us on the.
Habibi, I'm talking about the UK.
Okay, the UK. Okay, UK.
I'm talking about the UK. And I'm saying I'm not putting it down to my video. No, but if we're talking about timeline, before that video, Salafi Da'wah went mainstream. So the point is that when I made that video, I was addressing a primarily non-Salafi crowd. My followers were primarily non-Salafi. They weren't primarily non-Salafi. They were. I'm not saying
that's interesting. I think it's interesting because it seems like you saw a completely different reaction to your video than I did, and I think many other people did.
Sheikh,
you know,
Sheikh, billahi alayk. The majority of that reaction came from who? Medina University students, right?
I just mean in general. Like I remember there was articles being put out, and blog posts.
Habibi, where did the majority? Where did that negative reaction come from? Let's call a spade, my bro.
Actually, I feel like the usl was it was a negative reaction. I feel like it's more so where was the positive reaction? That's my perspective, the way I saw it.
Okay. So how are we measuring reaction? Is it comments? Is it likes?
I don't know, man. I don't know the scientific way we would like really get down to it. I'm just speaking generally about my experience as a human being.
So that's what I'm saying. So is it fair to impose a position when we don't even have a way to measure that position?
No, we're not. It's not about imposing any positions. It's just about me hearing your perspective and me sharing my perspective with you.
But reason is that because I know right now I've annoyed some of these brothers, so I'm not even talking to you. I'm talking to them right now. I'm not even talking to you. I'm talking to them right now. I'm saying the reality of the matter is that they are not on the ground. Okay, this perspective only came from a particular bubble. I'm saying my bubble is a bit bigger, alhamdulillah, because I travel the world, alhamdulillah. I travel the city, you know what I'm saying? So I meet people. I saw, yes, there was a backlash. The backlash came from the Ikhwanis themselves, of course, because I just went to war with them. So obviously they're going to come and declare war back. But from amongst our community, the only people who I found that really that the backlash came from was brothers who are commenting on the da'wah, and they are not involved. But I don't care if he's a graduate, with all due respect. I don't care if he's got, a master's, a PhD. I'm not talking about anyone specific. Wallahi billah, I swear by Allah, I have no one specific in my mind. The point that I'm making is that there's a very different reality towards you looking into the da'wah and actually being involved. You know why, Habibi? Because, be honest, did you ever think that you would be a person who's out there refuting people the way that you are? Because you got more refutations than me. Like I sit with
did you count them?
Brothers and I say, yo, this brother Sajid, Allah allowed me to take a step back. I say alhamdulillah, but I'm saying, did you imagine that would be the case?
To be honest, Akhi, when it comes to my refutations, I relate to you in many ways, Akhi, and this is why I wanted to zero in on this one particular thing, because there's a lot that we agree on. This particular private email is something I think we disagree on, but I was very shocked I was very shocked when I saw people saying certain things publicly, sitting back, and I saw people not responding to it, and people even being influenced by it and parroting it and echoing it. So I can relate to you on that level for sure. It's just the privacy of that email was my main.
You see, one element of relatability that we have, that I have, that you have, is that we're actually involved in da'wah. So to all the haters that are hating on my bro, all the people hating on my boy Sajid, my brother, you need to pick up a mic and see what it's like to no, I'm saying to put yourself out there. I'm saying, why talk when you're scared? I mean, you nowadays it's like a trend. Like the brothers, look, actually, well, I really don't want to talk about this, but now that you got me started, okay, I'm gonna. This is the point I mentioned about maybe being hasty and whatnot and so on and so forth. But you know what it is? I've been thinking about addressing this issue for almost a year now. It's not like the brothers don't inform me what the mentality of a lot of these students is and these graduates is. I know there's a whole movement going around about let's not associate with Dawah Man and Knowledge College, and even people like other people. Again, I'm not going to mention names because I can only speak for myself. But I'm saying, and that's cool. Like, you don't have to have that level of association. You know what I'm saying? That's not a problem. But it's the reasoning I hear behind why my own Salafi brothers might not want to associate. You know why? Reputation. And I'm like, my bro, really, when you say reputation, that's just a cute and sophisticated way of saying I'm scared. I'm scared of the backlash. Now, you don't have to associate with me. That's not an issue. But I'm saying, then you go out there and you put in work. You teach the people. You don't even have to go out there and do a refutation like we do refutation.
I'm gonna agree with you, but I'm also gonna add something, because I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. And as somebody who's involved in da'wah, I'm sure you're like me, where you want to collaborate with people. You're like, Sheikh, come do a video. Let's do something, And they're like, no, they make a million excuses, right? So I agree with that aspect. Some people are scared. Some people are worried about their reputation. But that doesn't invalidate some of these opinions, Akhi, at the same time. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong with their criticisms, right? So,
Habibi, look, anyone who knows me in my personal life, they know how I'm one of the most, wallahi, I attribute all khair to Allah Azza wa Jal for guiding me to this particular situation. But I'm not a person who is antagonistic when it comes to advice. I love it. A dua I always have on my tongue, and I try to make this dua every day. Allahumma arina al-haqqa al-haqqa warzuqna ittiba' wa arina al-batila batila warzuqna ijtinaba. Allah, I ask you to show me the haqq as it is and give me the ability to follow it. And I ask you to show me the falsehood as it is and give me the ability to stay away from it. So, I only improved. If you see if there is any improvements that a person sees over the years, that didn't come because of me. No, I was advised. You know what I'm saying? So that's my journey. I'm open to advice. What bugs me is that you see a person. I'm not hard to reach. I'll go on email just as public. I'll go on Instagram page. You can send me a DM. I'm sure there's someone in the da'wah that knows someone that knows me personally that can say, yo, I want to speak to the brother. I'm saying, yo, I really want to hear the advice. I want to benefit from it. You know what I'm saying? I'm really open to it. Like, I'm not a person who's not open to advice. And you know what? Sometimes you may advise me, but at the end of the day, the same way, Habibi, look, me and you spoke, and I defended my position, but you still don't agree with me, right? And that's okay, because it's not wahy from Allah Azza wa Jal. There's no ayah in the Quran that says what Imran did with regard to the imams was correct. So we can, because we still believe the same stuff, we can still leave holding hands and say, we don't differ on foundational matters, but we can differ on this little matter here. That's not an issue. You know what I'm saying? That's not really an issue. But the reality is, we don't have the maturity. But it's something funny that you mentioned, yeah, is how you said that you try to reach out to people and maybe there might be difficulty in collaboration because of the stigma that's involved. Shall I tell you something that we see over the years? Is that the same people that really did not want to collaborate with us, now they see, that was actually progressing. Oh, my phone's Prophet Imran. Like, there's certain masajid where there were people that used to run Twitter accounts dedicated to me. Those same masajid called me back and said, can you run the youth program here? So I'm saying, just remain patient. We just need to remain patient on the truth. And our job is not results, guy. But like, if we remain sincere and we remain on the sunnah, Allah will open up doors. Can I just say something? I just want to clarify one thing, because it might have come across in this video like I was trying to attribute and all the success of the Salafi da'wah to myself. And if it came across like that, I really want to clarify that, wallahi, I don't even for a second believe that in any way, shape, or form. If it did come across like that, it wasn't intended. I was just talking about my perspective at a particular time and what I saw, not necessarily linked to me and what I did, but that's just a series of events that I saw over time. Wallahi, Allah is my witness. I don't believe that for a second, that any success of any da'wah in any way, shape, or form is linked to me. Never, abadan. In fact, anything that you see, or even if it was linked to some projects that we done, I'm the guy who's the laziest when it comes to the projects. We've got a whole jama'at of brothers, students of knowledge that putting in work. Abu Taymiyyah, Yasin, Abdul Ahad, that putting in work day and night, teaching people, educating the people. So it doesn't come back to me in any way, shape, or form. No, I'm just the guy that's happy to be the lamb to send for the slaughter, really. I'm happy to be that guy. I'm happy to be that guy.
Jazakallah khair, akhi. Jazakallah khair. It was very nice talking to you, and I'm glad that I got to see this side of you and discuss some of these issues. And I'm glad that, inshallah, the viewers will also get to see the side of you, and hopefully it'll add some clarity, and it will let them see a more accurate depiction of who you really are and what you're really about, because I'm sure there's a lot of misconceptions out there, you know. So inshallah we can do this again sometime. I feel like we could talk. I feel like we could talk. Is that like a fist bump?
Oh, sorry, no, there was the pop-up came saying my battery's about to die. So
okay.
But we can
Okay,
fist
perfect
bump,
timing. Yeah. All right, Akhi. Inshallah, we can do this again, man. There's lots we could talk about, but thank you, Akhi. I really appreciate it. I ask that Allah put barakah in this and make it beneficial, and that Allah guide all of us. And until next time, bro, keep in touch. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.